So this is the, let me get this, June 1st, the ICD UX meeting, America's Europe version. Couple of heads ups, FYIs from me as usual. Not as many, I guess, as the last few weeks. But if you haven't completed your required training, security training, please do so ASAP. I think we are at 64% completion. Chrissy shared a message earlier this week or today. So please complete that if you haven't done so. I'm going to send a reminder in our team chat as well. I don't think there's any updates for OKRs. Gino, we're going to meet tomorrow, but if there's anything you'd like to share here before our next 101 about OKRs.
No.
Okay, awesome. I saw that Nadia left some updates about her own OKRs, jobs redone, etc. So I think everything is on track. Pajamas Migration Day, we have a date, right? So next Friday, the 10th. I would like everyone in our team to contribute to that. So at least one component migration. I'm not going to say it's easy because it can be pretty complex if you have to set up GDK, but last time the instructions, at least to me, they were really helpful. And it's also a good way for us to play around with the product and then migrate those components, like especially buttons that are outdated or incorrect in the UI in your product areas. So please schedule some time if you can to contribute. And if you get at least 3 merge requests created and merged, you can expense a meal up to $25. So that's awesome. I had lunch last time, sponsored by Pajamas Components, and that's really fun. And also, if you're not able to create the components, also recommend joining the Slack channel and being available to review those components, because there's quite some MRs coming from engineers, and those needs to be reviewed by designers, right? So that's for you, Gina, and I'll send everybody else a reminder that you also need reviewers for those MRs. And there's a link here to the issue with more questions and also the guidelines for how to contribute that Tori has put together. So I'll pause now to see if you have any questions. All right, awesome. And then next thing is about the MR reviews. So please make sure to check if the bot is assigning, like if you're the person being assigned by the bot, because sometimes the developers will ask the random person that is not the random person suggested for that. I've seen some instances for that in our team. So please double check if you're actually being suggested by the roulette before reviewing an MR. And if that's not you, assign it to the designer, right? That is being randomly suggested by the roulette. And then last one, I promise, in case you missed it, the UX Cloud Sandbox is available, right, for all of us to play around with the product and also set up these test scenarios. I know that we'll go through that pretty soon. And there are also guidelines in the handbook about how to get access and how to set up those test projects. So with that, I'm done with my initial announcement. So if you have any questions, feel free to voice those. Otherwise, over to you, Gina.
Okay. I'm excited to use the UX Cloud Sandbox, by the way. I just wanted to update because I've been talking about artifacts for pipeline insights so often. I've had 5 sessions out of the 8 that I'm doing, and it's moderated sessions. And there's been a lot of findings that overlap with pipeline execution and pipeline authoring, which I've already looped Vithika and Nadia into. But I'm going to make sure to tag everyone. I'm going to do like a summary in the actual research issue so that I can just ping. And I think, Hayana, you had done that before and it worked really well. Like you had different threads for overlapping insights. But for early findings, I figured it would be interesting to tell you about them. So we validating if this artifacts page was something that we should move forward with. And it turns out that it would be really helpful for developers and for DevOps engineers, like software developers and DevOps. And we would have it at the project level. And a lot of them actually asked if it was going to also be at the group level. So that's something for us to look into after as well. And the main like job that it will help them do is when they're debugging failures in pipelines and jobs. If they need further like clarification of why something failed, sometimes it does have to link back to artifacts. And then some other things that I learned is the file name of the artifact. So it's usually like a file like GitLab.png or whatever it is. The file name and the file extension are the things that they use to identify them. That is something that I was not using in the design because today, like in our dropdown, we don't add the file extensions when you look at a pipeline. So that's something that I'll be adding. And then the other thing is we were looking at expired artifacts, which means like if you have a GitLab SaaS sets this automatic expiration date for pipelines that include artifacts so that we don't have a massive amount of storage. And so when those expire, sometimes there's pipelines that depend on those artifacts, and then those pipelines will fail because the artifact is expired. So you have to go back and rerun that initial pipeline. But they're only important when that dependable like track happens. Otherwise, they don't care about them. So that was interesting too, because I was listing all of the expired artifacts. Hayana, do you want to voice, even though you're still typing? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think you got an answer to my question. I was wondering if there was so far, if you heard any insights about those pipelines, those jobs, and the artifacts being related to a release, right, or that deploy job and why that would be important to debug at the group level. That's related to the link, the issue I added here for organization level environment page. And one of the jobs and also say the tasks, right, that you would cover with a page like that at the higher level is similar to what you're mentioning. So, being able to move things out of a release, for example, debug a failed deployment pipeline, see the status of what goes into production, but also where is that in the flow, etc. So just wondering if you heard anything related particularly to releases so far.
Yeah, the one thing I did hear is the like dependent pipelines type of thing. I also have heard sometimes so the artifacts that we're talking about though are usually just passed between pipelines. They're not used to be like deployed out into whatever. They're usually used as like reports or like logging kind of. So I haven't found anything that really overlaps with things that are going to be deployed and released. I'm going to check back though.
Yeah, that sounds good. If you see anything, then just ping me in the research issue and I'll have a look. Because when talking to people about environments, and for example, when I ask them, where would you go to see the status of your latest deployment, or where would you go to debug, I don't know, a deploy pipeline that has failed, they would always go to the pipelines overview. They would not go, not always, but I would say like 70% of them would just navigate back to pipelines to see that. And we have been talking the release teams in implementing a view of environments at the group level. But if the pipeline view already solves that problem, I think it'll be interesting kind of be able to connect those insights so we don't build two separate things when it's the same persona navigating, maybe just completely different tasks. And like what I'm hinting.
No, I understand what you're saying. I had the similar thought of like, should this really be a separate page or should this be integrated into the pipelines page already? And it's really hard with performance as well, because the
Mm.
pipeline page is like, so there's so much there. But yeah, I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, awesome. And then I'll share later with you the, well, I share already the link here, but I'm working on some of the prototypes, and when I have that added to the issue, I'll share with you so you can see how that relates to, or how that might relate to what you're investigating.
Okay, sounds good.
Nothing.
Yeah, and Hayana, your comments about wanting to see things at a organizational level for environments is something I've seen in other research I've done too. So I help out with the enablement group. And for global search, we found a lot of people talking about when I search for something in GitLab, I just want to be able to search within my organization, not just like a specific project or a specific group, but just like everything for my company that they, that they have. So that seems to be a common theme that I've been noticing.
Yeah, that's a good call out, Will. And like my first thought is like performance, exactly what Gina just mentioned, is that, in the past, why we kept separating things at the group level or project level or, environment deployment, it's also because we cannot support all this data, or I think we can, but there's a lot that needs to be fixed in the back end for that to happen. And then, for example, if you go to the environment dashboard, which is not the environment page, that we have something separate here. I'm gonna drop a link here in our agenda real quick. This is where ideally you would go, to track environments across multiple projects or different groups, but then you can only show 3 environments per project at a time. So yeah, that's why people, as I mentioned before, they just go to the pipelines page. And if you can brush on later, will to those insights, I think will be helpful, because Chris also asked me to start looking at these environments at the group level. And that's why I'm like, let's validate that. Let's have the jobs to be done first, because my gut feeling, my experience with GitLab says we don't need that, right? We kind of, if we are able to highlight some information or give people the ability to filter or search whatever in places where they already go today, maybe that's a low hanging fruit rather than a redesign. Anyways, that's me brainstorming, so I'll stop here.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, and Gina, sorry for the collaboration traffic that I'm contributing to, I guess.
No, that's better. I love collaboration.
Well, thank you.
All right, I'll finish up with the last thing. I'm working on validating the new list view for the runner admin view. And Hayana, I'm gonna start recruiting next. My goal is next week. I have a discussion guide that's work in progress right now, but I'm going to mix unmoderated and moderated. So I'm gonna only interview some of our internal GitLab team members, so that I'm not like waiting on it, like recruiting the enterprise customers, which has taken a while with the artifact stuff. So I'll do a mix, and I'm starting with validating like a very small portion of the list.
All right, thanks, Gina. I'll share the list of participants that I use for the environment research, because remember
Okay.
that some of them mention runners as well. So
Yes.
might want to have a look there and see if any of those are going to be useful to you. Let me find that now.
Yeah,
Actually, you shared that with me, right, Will?
I think so. It still should be somewhere in the comment thread, I would think.
Yeah, here, share with me. I share with Katie as well. Here, link. And let's see, here, Gina.
Thank you.
I think there were at least 2 of them mentioned runners. I think that's the ones I pinged you, that I looped you in the comment section.
Okay,
I think you need access. Let me add you to it.
I do. Yeah.
Gmail. Mhm. No.
Got it. All right. Awesome. Thank you. I'll look into that. All right.
I guess I'm next. I'm out of office on Monday, the 6th. It's a public holiday here in the Netherlands, and I'm also out of office in June 14th until the 23rd. You've already mentioned that to all of you during our one-on-ones, but there's a coverage issue. The link here again, and it's still a work in progress, but you coverage issue. You can see my backup will be soon, as soon as I have a backup assigned to that. June 14th to 23rd. Okay. And then next week, Chris and I are going to participate in the UX road mapping workshop as part of the Q2 KR next week on Thursday. I added the incorrect link here. So that's that. I'm finishing reading that handbook page. And we'll see what's going to happen there. We're going to be the first ones doing that workshop. That's cool. And then other than environment, so I didn't add here, but I have to wrap up the insights from the research that I conducted. And then also been helping, collaborating with Chris and Will on the benchmarking for release. So I also wrapped that up just I think like half an hour ago, trying to determine which tasks happen in the UI and API so that Will knows how to set up the test environment, but also the tasks that we're going to go through during that. So, yeah, maybe maybe we'll talk about that later, but anything you'd like to add about benchmarking for me?
No, we had a very in-depth discussion about it a couple hours ago between you, myself, and Chris. So we've still got a lot of things to figure out in the coming weeks, but it was good to catch up.
There are a couple updates here from package and pipeline authoring. So Katie and Nadia had their session earlier today, so please have a look and leave comments if you have any. And Vitka is out of office this whole week. She'll be back. I think she's back next week. Yeah, next week on Monday. So we're gonna skip pipeline execution this week, and then over to Will for the research update.
Nice. So I'm out of office this Friday. I'll be back on Monday to catch up on things. And as I spoke to a minute ago, you know, I met with Hyana and Chris to talk through different release topics, specifically the usability benchmarking study. I've linked to the mural that has been updated a little bit since we last spoke. So there's a list of, I think, 31 different tasks that we could potentially do. And we'll need to narrow that down in probably the next week or so. So I'll be helping out with that and then creating a UX sandbox project. I've been speaking with one of the other researchers who's done that, and he added a lot of content that went into that handbook page that I could actually link to. So I'll add that page in just a moment. But yeah, that's kind of it for me at the moment. Any comments or questions? Cool.
I comment. I think I already mentioned this in Slack, but for the tasks that we added to the Miro board. I think that there are a couple of things here that we cannot do with the product today. So what do we do with those tasks? Do we remove them? Do we leave them there? But kind of like, because we're not going to assess it, right? The usability if we cannot perform that particular task.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we'll just have to move on because we can't really assess them if we can't actually create an environment where participants could actually complete the task. We could make note in the report that, like, you know, we wanted to do these tasks and like list them out, but then, you know, say that this would be something to get at in the future if you know we have time, and because you know the usability benchmark is not just like a one and done thing. You can do it, I think, roughly like once a year is what the handbook talks about. So yeah, I think that would just like get added to a backlog in a sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm referring to create a release audit checklist in particular. I actually added that one sticky in the task, and I'm like, how do they do that today? And I think that's a good way to find out is checking the delivery team, because they're the ones that release with GitLab. But I know that it's a manual task, maybe done outside of GitLab. So do we measure that? Do we track that particular scenario? But I can investigate about this sticky create release audit checklist.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Do you want me to speak to Erica's stuff? So she's got her prioritization issue still there. She's included a link to the field notes that she took and a summary that she did based on her experience at KubeCon that I think was about a week or two ago. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I've seen some of the documentation that she's already shared, and it's you know, very extensive. So highly recommend it. Hi, Anna, did you want to voice your comment?
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to give her feedback yet, so I'm just asynchronously saying, well, and now also in the video that thank you, Erica, for moving back my reminder like by 1 day, because she created reminders to like the product designer and myself to go over the doc and then provide her with feedback and everything. I haven't done that yet, so it's in my list. And it's awesome that she shared those insights with us, and we'll have a chance to see and also learn more from her experience as well from KubeCon.
And then it looks like she's working on the analysis and report for the KubeCon product direction survey. She shared that with the research team late yesterday. And I provided some feedback just kind of in an early review state. But that's at a point where I think it's pretty close to being shared out more broadly. And then she's also waiting for Tim to review the shared resource library and CI templates report, and then creating actual insights as well.
Erica had helped me, if you're watching this, thank you. She had helped me with a promotional game for a job to be done survey that we're doing for artifacts. And it was really, she had this like whole document of how to easily pull in the block basically to Qualtrics. And so I wanted to ask, and I can just ping I could ask her in the issue or something if that would be something that we could add to the handbook, because I think a lot of people would use that for surveys if it's like a normal thing to follow.
I think I know a little bit about what you're describing. Could you like explain a little bit more by what you mean that like she was able to pull in the whole block into Qualtrics?
Yeah, in Qualtrics, you can use, I think it's called like shared questions, maybe that your organization can use. And there was one specifically that was created by, it must be from the research team. That was for this promotional game so that participants would be given and like get put into a game to win $60 Amazon gift cards.
Okay.
I can, let me actually just get the doc because she shared it with me. Here it is. There it is.
Oh yes, I've seen this exact thing, and I actually made the same exact comment to her. I was like, wow, this is really good. You should put this in the handbook. And
Yeah.
I forget what she told me at the time. I think she was maybe like, I want to pilot this or like test it out a little bit more before I put it in there. But yeah, I had the same thought as you did, Gina.
I was, because it made it so, it was so easy to just put in there. So I'll maybe I'll just catch up with her and see if it would be
Yeah.
possible. All right.
Cool. I think that's all I've got. Or I guess all that Erica's got.
So anything else? I think before we wrap up, I think we can wrap up a bit earlier today. No, then that's it. Thank you for joining, for brainstorming and chatting. Then see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.